that these two are kind of like a match made in heaven to kind of kick off district play for these two?
They really are. I mean, you take a look at the scope of this district as a whole, and we were talking about it on our show, Texas Football Today, literally just last week, of this district is so interesting when you look at the amount of talent and the amount of skill from any of the teams in the district, but especially when you take a look at Lubbock Cooper and Lubbock Coronado, both teams that have the opportunity to show up in district play and wipe the slate clean of anything that can happen. Specifically, when you're talking about Lubbock Coronado, you see the record of 1-4 and you're going, man, this on paper is a really good team. What has been happening? They've been shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. And so we'll kind of figure out what they need to change here. But district play is an opportunity for teams to sit down and go, okay, hey, look, wipe the slate clean, new week, new opponent. We're going to go 1-0 here. This is how we want to do it. And I mean, Lubbock Cooper has looked fantastic so far this season. So Coronado's chance this week is to step up to the plate and go, all right, it's time to start, swinging with the big boys here.
Mm-hmm. And let's go along with that with Lubbock Coronado first, kind of breaking them down. You mentioned 1-4 record, but a lot of those games have been very close. And I know they've had it, unfortunately, they've came back against Ryder and, unfortunately there was a situation that happened in the end zone. But I guess from what you've seen of them, what's been the most impressive thing that maybe despite what it says on paper, that they have enough grit and toughness to compete in this district?
Right. They're right there. I mean, just right there. And it's been, 3 of the games have been decided basically by one score. Getting blown out against Caprock last week was a little bit of a kind of anomaly and hesitation that we haven't seen. So interested to see how they kind of react to that. But the other games, they're going up against really, really good competitors in the state of Texas, especially like you mentioned with the Ryder game, with the Abilene Cooper game. And it's been shooting themselves in the foot. The one plays where they're really like 3 plays away from going into this game being 4-1. So I think that they have all the pieces, especially offensively. Jet Carroll is an unbelievable quarterback. He's got the plethora of wide receivers that he can use to spread the ball out and to get it going. I think that they need to mature a little bit more in the trenches and make sure that they're able to protect it. But honestly, it's just about protecting the football at this point. You give it up in the end zone, you have the couple of turnovers, the penalties that have really been the story of this season so far. So if DJ Mann can get his guys out there and make sure they're not dropping the football, then I think that this team can really make some noise.
Mm-hmm. And when you're looking at Coronado on defense too, I mean, Coach Mann, when we were talking to him prior to season, he was really impressed with the secondary, but also the way that they have grown up a little bit in the defensive line. They're not the biggest, he said, out there, but I guess for you, what's been so impressive about those two position groups?
You hit the nail on the head. They're not the biggest, but they're fast. They're quick to swarm to the ball. And if anybody can get his guys motivated to get to the ball quickly, it's DJ Mann. If you're lucky enough to stand on the sideline with him, he's full of high energy. And I think his defense really reflects that. And when we think of DJ Mann, we think about, the offensive side of the ball and we hear about Jet Carroll and all that stuff. But the defense really has, to hold a team like Ryder to just 28 points, to hold a team like Midland to 27, Abilene Cooper to 33. These are exactly the type of battles that Coronado wants to be in. And it's all been at the hand of their defense because their offense still figuring it out a little bit, but especially in the secondary, I really like what they're working with back there. I feel like those guys play with a lot of grit. They play with a lot of toughness, and they're not going to allow those big explosive plays. And that's really the name of the game. So I've been very impressed with their secondary. I think the D-line could use a little bit more work here and there, but ultimately the defense has been what's kept this team in these games to the final finish, which I know coach is wanting to end this week.
Mm-hmm. And let's switch it over now to the home team, Lubbock Cooper. It's for them, it's not about rebuilding. It's more about reloading. I mean, they graduated at least 33 seniors last year. They're coming, it was 33 to 37. They have at least 30 up seniors this year, very veteran leadership heavy. And for them, they're actually big when it comes to the line. They have one of the biggest offensive lines, not just in West Texas, but I feel like in the district. So let's kind of hit the nail on the head with that too. Offensively, what's been so impressive, because they did have to replace their quarterback. They have a new quarterback coming in. What have you seen from them, I guess, offensive line, quarterback, receiver room? They like to run the ball. So what kind of your opinions on that?
Man, they're huge. Absolutely huge. Coach Chip Darton loves the size. Like you said, that offensive line, I mean, anchored by Coulter Lynch, 6'3", 260 on that kid. Holton Hendricks is 6'4", 225. I mean, these guys are, like you said, not just out there in West Texas. They are units that anybody could use on the offensive line across the state of Texas. So the offensive line we knew was going to be big. We knew that they were going to be able to develop really well. That's where the senior leadership came back. And you mentioned that they graduate 33 different lettermen. The good thing about it was 13 of the starters were back. So there is that veteran experience there, but that O-line has been the fundamental key piece for Coach Darden's squad to be able to allow time for the new quarterback in Bryce LeBlanc to really get to where he needs to be. That's a big starting job, you know. Luckily, they're able to rely on Caden Chambers with the run game, and I mean, what outstanding performances that he's had so far this year. But I think what I like from what I'm seeing from Chip Darden and his squad on the offensive side of the ball is now that LeBlanc is in quarterback and he can see him kind of start to move. Historically speaking, Cooper's a very, very run heavy offense. They like to just absolutely ground and pound it out. But what you're seeing this year is him telling his guys, hey, we have a quarterback now that can throw it, and we've got receivers that can catch the ball. So let's work on that confidence and not be scared to utilize that. Because you talk to Coach Mann, what's your game plan, you know, going into this game? And he says, we have to stop the run. Anyone who plays Cooper, their goal is to stop the rushing attack. And Coach Darden knows that in the back half of district play, what's going to end up happening is if you're having an off run game night, well, you've got to be able to be multiple. They run the multiple spread. You have to be able to really genuinely utilize the multitude of that. And I think that that's what you're seeing from this offense so far that I really like, because we haven't seen that from a Lubbock Cooper team in quite a while.
Mm-hmm. And now what's going on the defensive side of the ball too. I mean, that was a very low scoring game against Ryder. It was a very fast game. Hardly really any penalties there, but they held them to 14 points, the number 2 team in the state at the time. What's been very impressive for them, I know when I would talk to Coach Darden, he always is like, hey, it's a Cooper specialty, that very fast paced, aggressive type defense. So what have you seen from that aspect?
Yeah, aggression. That's exactly what you'll see with the Cooper defense. And, you know, they have the size, but that's what I always enjoy about watching Lubbock Cooper is the fact that they have the size, they have the guys that they need, but they're not just big old guys that can, you know, crowd the pocket and stop the run or get off to the pass rush. But I think that the linebackers have been outstanding. They've really been able to go up against, you know, a high flying offense if they need to, because they can break off the edge and get there if they need it. But they're also very, very good at crowding up towards the front and utilizing the size that they have to stop the rushing attack. So the speed to getting to the ball, the ability to utilize the size while also still keeping their feet moving. They're not just big old guys, they're athletic guys in the backfield. And the defensive backs have looked really good too. Like you said, I don't think that they've played that many teams that you're going to see a whole lot of high flying offense. Now Dumas might have had something to say about that, but obviously holding them there. But I think performing the way that they did against Wichita Falls Ryder, a team that, you know, they're super familiar with now in recent history. It's almost a budded rivalry at this point, but they really showed that pound for pound, this is a defense that can get after it and really isn't scared to go out there and hit people. And that goes a long way, especially when you start talking about West Texas high school football.
Exactly. And I guess when those two teams line up at 7 p.m. with the first kick, I guess, what do both teams need to do well in order to win this game? Who's going to come out on top if they do blank to blank right?
I think all my eyes go straight to the battle of the trenches, specifically when you have Coronado on defense and Lubbock Cooper on offense, because like we mentioned, Lubbock Cooper's offensive line is unbelievable. I mean, massive humans. And that's going to be a big, big test for Coronado, because Coronado coming into the year, where they lack the most experience was on that defensive line. And we've seen them progress, but this is the test for those guys. Knowing how they're going to be up in the battle of the trenches is going to be exactly where my eyes go. And I think that, you know, you have to, like I said, Coach Mann knows they're going in saying, do not let Chambers get past the line of scrimmage. Our goal is to be quick off the edges, to get in the backfield, to disrupt as much as we can. But I think that battle between the offensive line for Cooper and the defensive line for Coronado will be the make or break of this game. If they can do that and they can hold them enough to allow that Coronado offense to get into a rhythm and get going, then you never know what will happen. But if they go out there and that Cooper offensive line just starts running all over the Coronado defense, it could be a really long night for the Mustangs.
Mm-hmm. And when you're looking at this district from top to bottom, you have Tascosa, you also have Monterey in there too. So we have a couple of our West Texas local Lubbock teams in there. How hard is this district, and what is so special about the competition between this district?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, District 2 5A Division 1 is one that we look forward to every single year. And like you said, you're not just getting the greatness of some really powerful Lubbock teams. You're bringing in Abilene. You're bringing in Amarillo. I think that when you're looking at the scope of this right now, I think that Amarillo Tascosa has done nothing but prove that they're the favorites in this district heading into it. But after that, I mean, all it takes is one game. And that's what's so fun about this one is a lot of times that we look at from Texas high school football as a whole, we're looking at these districts and we're saying, okay, here's the clear-cut favorite who's playing for second, third, fourth, and trying to pick up that playoff seeding. This is one of those that week in, week out, if Cooper was to win this one and then go on and beat Tascosa, if Coronado was to win this one and go on and beat Tascosa, then it's anyone's game. Tiebreakers start coming into it. But I would say right now, from the football that I've seen out of this district, I think Tascosa would be your favorite. And then I think that this game tomorrow night is the one, or Friday night is the one that is going to decide, okay, who is there to contend for the title with Tascosa? And for Coronado fans, it's an opportunity to wipe that start that looks a lot worse on paper than anyone who's actually sat there and watched the games know how close these games have been. But you can take the records on this one and say, hey, genuinely fresh start and the exact momentum that you need heading into it. But yeah, if I had to put my money on it right now, I think Tascosa is the early favorite. Caprock obviously has looked very impressive as well, but I think that both of these teams are very, very highly favored to round out one of the second through fourth teams and make it to the playoffs. And ultimately, that's what you want to do.
Exactly. And when you're looking at Coach Mann and Coach Darden, I mean, these are two now staples, high school coaches within the Lubbock area and also in West Texas. I mean, from your time at Dave Campbell's, what have you seen? What's been so impressive about these two and how they're really putting their teams on the map? Because on Friday night, it's the two best representatives of the Lubbock football that we have here. So what have you really seen from them over the past couple of years at your time at Dave Campbell's?
Yeah, I was really hoping that we were going to get to talk about this a little bit because these are two guys. I'm lucky enough to get to talk to coaches all over the state, and there's some of them that maybe they're a little bit colder and dry, but when you get them on the football field, they're the nicest people in the world. It kind of depends on coaching style. Coach Darden and Coach Mann are two people that it does not matter if you put them on the football field. It does not matter if you're seeing them at coaching school. It does not matter if you're eating lunch with them. They are genuinely good people that are who they are. They are constantly positive. They love West Texas football. You've seen everything. I love what Coach Mann has done with the 34th Street. He brought us all shirts at coaching school. Coach Darden is born and bred out there. I mean, so is Coach Mann. And I think that that's what makes those two so special is they understand how much they love the 806. They rep it. They're excited. That's where they grew up. It's kind of going back and coaching alma maters and doing that. And they love the people of West Texas. And I think that comes across in their coaching style of, hey, you don't have to just talk about DFW. You don't have to just talk about Houston. We have good ball players. We have good teams. We have good programs out here in Lubbock, and they are ideal representatives of that. And I think that makes the world a difference. Their kids see it, they believe in it, and they're ready to go out there and fight for their coach because they know for a darn sure that their coach would go out there and fight for them. So yeah, y'all got a lucky draw out there as a reporter having those two guys to talk to every single week.
100%. They have been nothing but nice. I've only been here for a year, and Coach Mann was the first coach I actually interviewed, and it was just like, he was just so nice, and it was his first season too, so I felt like we bonded on that.
Let's go.
Exactly. And I just have my one final question for you. You mentioned like how much these high school coaches here in Lubbock like really love West Texas football and want to be great representatives, but it's also a really exciting time here in Lubbock when you think about Coach McGuire coming in, especially with that win last week against Texas. So what to you makes West Texas football so special, and how exciting is it to be in this time here in the 806?
Oh man, there is not a better time with the crop of coaches that are out there. From, like you said, Coach McGuire. Obviously, we're huge fans of him here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. We put him on the cover of the magazine for a reason, and I think that he is the perfect guy. You see him all the time. The West Texas Tough, the cactus emoji. I mean, they are all in on taking the best parts of West Texas, the best parts of Lubbock, and putting that on a billboard for the rest of the state to see. Of, some people who have never been there might think, oh yeah, what is there to do out there? There's tumbleweeds and whatever. But it's like, no, man, there's community. There is unbelievable football to be played. And there's people and fans and communities out in West Texas that make Texas high school football, Texas college football, what it is. It's the passion, it's the pride, it's the shutting down the towns at night to go support the guys. And what I love, something that Coach McGuire has been doing recently, is he's making sure that the first couple of recruits that he recruited when he went out there were Lubbock kids. And that's special, man. That's exciting, because it's saying, hey, we've got good homegrown talent that we're not going to let go anywhere else. And guess what? Then their families go to the game, and you really get that West Texas tough feeling. And I think that the guys that are out there right now, like I said, I'm jealous that y'all get to talk to them all the time, because it's an unbelievable crop of coaches, and it's a really, really special time out there in the 806.